Hi, so here's another quick video analysing Shakespeare's use of language in Act 1, Scene 5 with Lady Macbeth. So the earlier video that I put out there was referring to the quote about chastise with the valour of my tongue, so from earlier on in Act 1, Scene 5. Remember, Lady Macbeth had just received a letter from her husband telling her about what the witches had said. A messenger then comes in and shares some information about the king coming and Macbeth. Macbeth sent the messenger ahead of him. And so then the messenger leaves and Lady Macbeth is on her own again. So a soliloquy. Again, remember we talked about that allows us kind of access into the character's mind and thoughts. Perhaps we could also question her stability with the idea that she's talking to herself. So if we have a look, it's quite a long quote, but I've taken a section from the start and a section from towards the end. So we've got towards the beginning, come you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here, and fill from the crown to the top toe full of direst cruelty. Come thick night and pall thee in the dunnest smoke of hell. So AO1, what does this translate as? What can we begin to understand more about the character of Lady Macbeth? Okay, so it basically, she's asking, or we could say commanding, to the spirits. If we look here, okay, so we've got this verb of come. Interesting, you may note we've got it repeated there. So we've got a repetition of the verb come to show her demanding character. Again, consider the expectations of females at the time in the 1600s and how Lady Macbeth is atypical. Remember, atypical means goes against the conventions of the time. So it starts off with her saying, come you spirits. So she's referencing the supernatural, referencing perhaps the witches or calling to the witches. And this is not the only reference in this section here. If we look, spirits and also hell. Okay, so in the first part, she is seeking support from the witches. She's seeking help to do what she needs to do. So, come you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts. Come you spirits that assist murderous thoughts. Okay, so she's already linking the supernatural, the underworld, the witches to sinning, murdering, which shows her aims. Okay, and then this is quite an important part here. Unsex me here. Okay, now the unsex me here, she doesn't want to be turned into a man. Okay, we see a lot of that in kind of grade 3 essays. Lady Macbeth doesn't want to be a female. That's not necessarily what this section is about, this phrase. Here we're looking at her to have less feminine qualities, those expectations of the time, and have more masculine qualities. Okay, so she is perhaps recognising here, or Shakespeare has Lady Macbeth recognise her own weaknesses, perhaps. So she says, unsex me here. So she wants to become perhaps more ruthless, more of a warrior, perhaps more like the Macbeth we heard about in Act 1, Scene 2 with the unseamed him quote, if we remember back to the unseamed quote. And then she goes on to say she wants to be filled from her crown, and that's really interesting, the use of that crown. We'll explore that in a second, the metaphor of the crown, to her toe full of direst cruelty. She wants to be full of deadly cruelty. Okay, so that's what she's asking the witches to do. So she's asking, or the supernatural, to fill her with evil. Now, let's just quickly return to this metaphor of the crown. Why is that interesting? Well, think about the aims of the Macbeths. Think about the connotations and what comes with that noun crown. So the connotations of the noun rhymes. So we're thinking royalty, but we're also thinking power, loyalty, respect, honour, family as well. If we think about the divine right of kings. So that's quite an interesting use there from Shakespeare. He doesn't say and fill me from the head, he specifically uses that crown. And then the second part, which we're going to have a quick look at, is this bit here, come thick night. Okay, so as we spoke about earlier, the repetition of that thick night, the repetition of the come, but here she's basically saying darkness, cover the world in darkness, I should say. So cover the world in darkness. So, and this part isn't in the quote, but so their acts aren't seen. And it's interesting, look at this section here, how dark she wants it to be. She wants it to be as dark as hell. Okay, now thinking about particularly about religion, the fact that hell would be, or so the Jacobite audience would have thought would be full of sinners, going against the commandments, going against what would predominantly be a Christian society. This shows us that she is aware at this point that what she is planning is immoral and is a sin. Okay, and she's not only here kind of trying to hide that, she's actually seeking help, she's seeking support. She wants darkness to occur so that they can't be seen. And if we think about the darkness isn't referenced here, the word itself, but we've got the dunnest smoke of hell, okay, and dunnest refers to darkest. Think about the protection of the dark, the secrecy of the dark, and again that links in with deception and appearances, which we talked about in some of the earlier quotes.